in too much. I may be leaning forward. I may be in the toilet position here for a lot of this. It's comfortable. Goodness. Okay, so I have 3 minutes to finish eating this apple. So you're an intellectual property attorney. Can you tell me how the fuck Mixcloud is still in business?
No one person is angry enough at them to do anything about it. There's a series of events that has to happen. So somebody brings a copyright or any lawsuit. Have you heard the series?
I probably am somewhat familiar with it, but I'm not on a formal level. All right. Thank you very much.
First, you have to do something wrong. Second, the person you've wronged has to find out about it. Third, they have to care. Fourth, they have to really care. The difference between caring and really caring? About $600 an hour.
Yeah.
Nobody has made it far enough down the series yet.
Gotcha. Are you familiar with Mixcloud as a service?
I know what it is. I've never looked at it particularly. So
it's I mean, you know, it's just a site where DJs can post their mixes, and it confounds me that where, you know, like Apple, iTunes, you know, that kind of stuff, Spotify, Pandora, and all these people have these like super razor thin margins, and they're barely staying above water with intellectual property licensing. How something like Mixcloud, which is very niche and is largely other people's intellectual property being posted, how they stay in business, how they don't run afoul of the record labels whose property.
Part of it, are you familiar with the DMCA notice and procedures?
Oh, yeah.
Part of it is you have to go through that first. So a lot of the labels, I mean, technically you don't. You can just sue.
Yeah.
But typically that's what the labels do, and if something really bugs them, they have automated services which are awful, but they are.
Yeah, they are.
Have to pay, they'll send notices. You know, they have monitoring actual humans who will send notices. So really they're kind of fighting a rearguard action because they're a little bit afraid, especially in the case of Mixcloud, which has got remixes, sampling, stuff like that. Every case of whether or not a use is a fair use is a different case. But if they push too hard and some federal court pushes back and says, you know what, DJ mixes, not a problem. Well, now they can't go after anybody.
Yeah, and nobody wants to risk that.
There's a lot of brinkspersonship. Well, we're at a freaking Brinks entityship.
Well, let's not discriminate. Brinks entity vessel. There you boat. You never know. All right, I'm done. Also, am I going to get a bill for these questions?
You get a bill when I give you actual advice.
Gotcha. Should I drink with boozy guys?
That's not legal advice per se, although it could turn into a need for legal advice.
Yeah, right.
It's just more personal advice.
Do you have someone in the area with bail money?
You know, it depends. You said your liver was already on the iffy side. I'm not sure if that's
Oh yeah,
that's
no,
right.
my whole body is done with alcohol. Probably take a whole weekend just after that.
You may need medical advice, not legal.
Maybe medical attention. What I need is coffee, and I'm still like I had like 3 sips of something on stage for opening ceremonies, and then passed out for another hour. So I've had like 3 sips of coffee today. It's just killing me. So it is now 2:30, so I should probably get the show on the road here. I should mention, especially to those of you in the back, my voice is not fantastic at the moment. I live in Washington State, so I've basically been smoking 3 or 4 packs a day because half the state is on fire. So for the last several days before coming here, my voice has gotten progressively worse, and I have 2 performances this weekend. So the last thing I want to do is shout over loud noises and whatnot. So I'm going to be speaking at about this volume for the next hour and a half, I think that is, that I'm in here. 2, 4, yeah, like hour and a half to 2 hours. So if you can't hear me and you want to, you can come closer. So, one thing that I like to start this panel with, in case none of you know who the fuck I am, by the way, my name is Matthew Ebel. I am a performer. I've been a full-time musician and voice actor for the last 10 or 11 years now. I've been making music professionally since 1999, which means I'm an old fucker. But I've done it as my job, as my only job for the last decade now. So that's where I'm coming from with this. I do not have a background in marketing. I do not have a background with business degree or sales or anything like that. Everything that I have learned to keep myself in business, I have had to learn by showing up at panels like these, talking to friends who are marketers, and pumping them for information, that kind of stuff. So, I guess what I'm saying is, the things that I will talk about are not necessarily the way that you should run your business. It is what has worked for me. Does that make sense? So, I usually like to start by kind of going around the room and getting a feel for what kind of art we're dealing with here. So I'm going to just start this way, go around here. What brings you in here?
Well, I mostly follow him around. I am not a performer. I am an artist and very, I guess.
Okay.
She made the hat that she's wearing.
Gotcha. So for hang on, Bird, and also Bird. I'm going to be very distracted sitting here. So I guess we could classify that as just physical art,
Yeah.
more or less. Okay. You said you're an attorney, but are you here to make your art into a business?
I'm always interested in this kind of stuff, both professionally and personally. I have done a lot of photography. I've done other kinds of art. I write. I have books online with experiences.
Okay.
I'm always looking for interesting things.
Okay. How about you? What brings you here?
On my side, more of a physical, making cosplay pieces, things of that nature.
Okay.
I'm his fiance. I make fursuit heads. I've written 1.5 novels, and I own a business making all natural body products.
Okay. How about you? What brings you in here?
Well, I make art as a hobby. It's just easier for me.
You make what as a hobby?
Art.
Wow, that does not narrow it down at all. What kind of art?
Well, right now I'm not traditional.
So drawing. Our first drawer. So far, everybody else, usually I'm expecting, especially at a furry con, most people are going to be the drawing type or the painting type. And you're actually the first so far in this half of the room anyway, so that's good to know. How about you?
I'm a digital artist.
Okay, another drawer though. Yes. I love using that word to describe people that draw. So visual art, construction, cosplay, that kind of stuff. Hats.
Mixed media.
Mixed media, yeah. How about you?
3D animation.
3D animation. All right.
I want to start getting back into it and find a way to make it into my business.
Okay. And you?
Visual art, I'm interested in the fursuits. I do a little bit of modeling. I do a little bit of music. I do
Sister,
anything-
you all over the
I do
place.
anything that I can get my hands in.
Gotcha. That's good to keep your options open. But I mean, I'll cover some of this later. And this is going to be a bit Surprisingly, it's going to be a bit compressed compared to my normal outline because usually this is 3 panels, each of them lasts an hour, so I'm doing all of it in like I think 90 minutes a game, if I last that long. So I guess the first thing that y'all should be asking yourself is like, are you actually ready to go from art as a hobby to art as a business? And it's sort of the first test of like, can you actually look at yourself and your product objectively? Asking hard questions like would others actually pay money for what it is you're producing? Because at the end of the day, you have to have a product. It's not just art. It's something you're slapping a barcode on and selling, just like, you know, a cup of coffee in a coffee shop, or, you know, cheap Chinese-made goods at Walmart. Like anything, it is a product. If somebody was trying to sell your art to you, like, would you pay money for this? Would you hand over your hard-earned cash for what it is you're making? And that's sometimes not something that you can approach objectively, you know. So it helps if you have friends that will be honest with you as well. And that's another important thing. Do you have a network of people, whether it's other colleagues or friends or family, that will actually be honest with you? That's important too. Because if everybody's just blowing smoke up your ass and then you go to market with a product, like you're just setting yourself up for disappointment. Another thing, do you actively collaborate with other people in your chosen field? And I don't just mean like you know, working on a fursuit together, or you know, somebody does the line art and I do the coloring. I mean even just, you know, giving feedback back and forth. Do you go to events where people in your field are active? You know, like not just art galleries, or, you know, for fursuit makers, obviously, places like this, or cosplay stuff, but professional events, you know, not just networking heavy events, but classes, you know, seminars, that kind of stuff. If somebody who is advanced in your field is doing some kind of thing, are you actually paying the money to go and participate in this, you know? Because you have to be, you have to keep sharpening your knives, you know, constantly. So if you're not going to events with the mindset of, I'm going to learn something here, then you're probably not ready to make it a business. Very important. Can you differentiate between your ego and your artistic vision? I'm a performer. This is very difficult for me. It's mostly ego. It's like ego all the way down to the shoes for me. So it's something that I've had to learn to sort of shelve the ego. You have to be able to differentiate between, is this just, this is my awesome art, or usually the converse, I suck, this is trash, and be able to set that aside and look at something and go, this is the vision that I had when I started working on this. So the ability to separate, you know, like step back and be a professional, not just an artist. And on the same token, there, do you have a professional level of narcissism? Because if you're a self-employed, or as I like to call it, a self-unemployed artist, you have to be in love with what you're making. You do have to actually enjoy what it is you're doing, because otherwise, what's the point? You know, like I have to like the music that I'm making. I have to want to actually listen to my own music, because if not, why the fuck am I doing this? You know. And the last thing, which is going in the "Are you ready" category here, can you produce on a regular schedule? That's key. If you're, you know, if you're a band, you have to be playing shows at least once or twice a month. You know, even if it's just online. But if you're not releasing albums on a yearly basis, you know, like what's the point? how often can you make this product that you want to turn into a business? Whether it's, some kind of 3D animation or a full-on fursuit. Like, I'm not saying you have to be cranking out a fursuit every single week, but can you actually do it on a regular schedule? 1 a month, 1 every 2 months, whatever. Because that'll help you determine a lot of things like pricing, availability, how long of a queue to take if you're taking commissions or orders, that kind of thing. Figure out what your regular schedule is for what it is you're making. Any questions? Feel free at any point, by the way, to shoot a hand up if you have a question, because I have an outline and I will just talk ad nauseum until my time runs out. If you don't, throw a rock in front of me to make me stumble over. The first thing I usually cover is something that was probably the most difficult thing for me to learn as an artist in business, and that is branding. And Zay Frank defined your brand as the emotional aftertaste that you leave behind, which I absolutely love that definition, because it's the truth. It's not just the logo, it's not just the typeface, it's everything. It is the thing that sticks in someone's head after they've interacted with you or your product. And having a handle on that before you start the business will help you make a lot of decisions about the business. The problem is, especially as an artist, it is difficult to step back and look at yourself objectively. What you're trying to do is distill the best parts of you out into a concentrated entity. And that can be very difficult, because I'm an artist. I don't know what it is about me or what I do that is what's resonating, that resonates with people. Certainly not grabbing an acoustic guitar and just playing in a public space. I would never ever do that or recommend doing that. Nobody likes that. But creatives in boardrooms, people that do graphic design and whatnot for companies, the Fortune 500 companies, they create something that's called a mood board. Are you familiar with a mood board? Okay. A little bit. You heard of it before? All right. This is the one and only thing. Just go ask that person to stop playing. Oh my God. Did you just ask that person to stop playing? Oh my God, I didn't mean for you to do that.
They can't hear me.
Thank you. Oh, gotcha. We could have just shut the door, but...
I tried to shut.
Oh, never mind then. Mood board. Sorry, back to this. This is the one and only thing that Pinterest is good for. What they'll do in a corporate scenario, like they used to do this on an actual board. They have like a cork board up there, and whatever product that they were working on, whatever campaign they were working on, they would stick stuff on the board that just it seemed to make sense with that product. And that can be anything from colors, textures, photographs, movie tickets, music, whatever, like anything that sort of says this is what this product is about, or this ad campaign or whatever is about. And the more shit that you stick on that board, you tend to get a cohesive picture. You tend to see patterns emerging in the static there. And I do this every time I release an album. Like anytime I need to get album art made, I will create a mood board on Pinterest and just link things that make sense with that album. So things like locations, for example. Like is your art, is your style, is your brand like a green wooded forest? Is it nighttime urban city skyline? Is it a hipster coffee shop where they're charging you way too much money but the coffee's really good? Like is it like three things that are just, these could be photographs, but they speak volumes about what you're trying to say, what you're trying to do. So anything like that that resonates with you, you know, stick it on Pinterest. Fonts that you like, you know, like super strong, you know, big thick slab fonts or the little skinny fonts or something like that, whatever resonates with you and says like, that's kind of what I'm going for. Stick that on there. Jingles, you know, music, anything, you know, stick it up there and try and distill down what it is that, why it is that you've put the things on there after you get a little collection going. And that can help you figure out your brand. Because a well-branded artist is immediately recognizable. It's immediately recognizable as soon as you look at, like, you know, Bill Watterson's work on Calvin and Hobbes. Like, you immediately knew that was Bill Watterson. You know, you immediately knew it was a Calvin and Hobbes paint, even if neither Calvin nor Hobbes were in the paint. You know, like the visual style. Within 3 bars of any given AC/DC song, you know it's an AC/DC song. You know, it's mostly because they all sound the same. But I'm making a value judgment here. The importance here is that you know, familiarity makes people remember you. You know what I mean? Like, that's not the word I'm looking for. Familiarity makes people remember you fondly, I should say. There's a reason why commercial radio stations only play the same, like 10, 20 songs all day long. Like, even if you don't like a song, if you hear it enough times, you might actually start to like it. You become familiar with it. So if you can keep that brand consistency in everything you do, that will help you immeasurably as you try and make a living off of this. The other thing is, if you can distill down that brand to something you know, tangible, something that you can actually put your finger on, that will help you make decisions throughout your business. Like, what am I putting on my business cards? What fonts do I put on my business cards? You know, what colors am I going to use? Like, if your style is steampunk, brown, that's the color you're going to use. That's pretty brown, black, maybe like silver, but you know, those are the colors you're going to use. It can tell you what events you're going to attend. You know, what political causes, what social causes that you will publicly endorse or back or blog about, that kind of thing. You know, if your brand is like I said, you know, the green, lush, wooded rainforest thing, you're probably going to attend events with, you know, like Burning Man or, you know, Celtic festivals and stuff like that. You know, anything more fitting with that kind of a vibe. You know, that can help you decide what to fill your calendar with, basically. Like, it's all these little decisions that you have to make, what to do with your time and what to do with your money. If you have a consistent brand identity already in place, it can help you make those business decisions. Let's see here. Oh yeah, how to dress at photo-heavy events. Because as an artist, like, you are part of the product. It's not just the art you make, but you as a personality are as much part of the product as the thing you're trying to sell in the first place. So how you dress, how you look. If you're going for, like I said, like urban cityscape, some high fashion, some really nice sneakers, not friggin' Merrells. You know, like these do not say, you know, I'm hip with the nightlife at all. Okay, these say I live in Seattle. Trying to think of some other example, but remember, I was drinking with alkali last night, so I'm not all here. None of you, I can tell that I'm on my not on my A game right now, because none of you have laughed once at anything I've said. Not a damn thing. This is the roughest crowd I've ever done to
If it makes you feel any better, I'm thinking really hard about some of the things that you said.
Oh God, I didn't know I had that kind of power. Okay. So I should wrap up the branding thing by saying, like, you really shouldn't like put too much pressure on yourself to get it right the first time either. You can always rebrand. Okay, you can always reinvent. Your brand can also always evolve. Okay, but it will help, especially when you're just trying to get off the ground. If you have something, that you can put your finger on. Like, you can also experiment with different brands at the same time as well. Like Trent Reznor from Nine Inch Nails, he is Nine Inch Nails. He's also, I think there's like 7 or 8 other acts with different musical styles that he had going on at the same time. And Nine Inch Nails was the one that took off. So all those other acts that you've never heard of before just sort of disappeared. But he was several musical acts and several musical styles until he found the one that was the most commercially successful. So nobody's saying you can't brand yourself 6 or 7 different ways and see what sticks. Any questions? Okay. So for starters, I guess, Pinterest, like I said, will help with the mood boarding stuff. Pick a business or a trade name that is unique and readily available as a .com. That's getting harder these days. There's a bunch of top-level domains, .biz, .ninja, .pizza, .whatever. Actually, it would not surprise me if .whatever is literally a top-level domain. But especially when you're first starting out, like, how are people most likely going to find you if they've heard of your brand name or your artist name before?
Google.
Well, Google, or they're just going to add a .com at the end and see what happens. And Google will love you a lot more if you have what they're looking for, .com. It's a quick way to pop to the top of the search engine. So sit down in front of a domain registrar and figure out what it is that you want to call yourself, and see if you can get it as a .com. See if you can get the name on YouTube. See if you can get the name in Gmail. See if you can get the name on Twitter. See if you can get the name on Instagram and Facebook and all that. Like, see how readily available what you're choosing for your business name is on all of these sites. It's like, you're just going to make it harder on yourself if you have to, if I'm Matthew Ebel Music on one site and I'm, Matthew Ebel Songs on another site, Matthew Ebel Entertainment on a third site. Like, why make people guess? Why make people hunt and fish around for that? Yeah.
At a con we were at last week, we had an issue where the person giving the panel was advertising their business. It was a fursuit business.
Yeah.
And it was spelled differently than you would expect. And they provided that, not at all. They were just like, it's, whispers, blah, blah, blah. And it was spelled incorrectly. And so it took us hours to finally find this.
Oh my God, yeah, that's that's not a bad idea. By the way, I'm sort of moving into setting up a website for yourself, kind of prematurely, but like that's an important part of the battle, especially with the branding too. Deciding a business name. If you're going to go with something creative, let's say, because we're artists, if you're going to go with something that's spelled a little differently, get the correct spelling .com as well, at the very least, because that can help push you in the right direction in the Google searches. Especially if it can be misheard as well. I own MatthewEvil.com, and I have been tempted many times to create a mirror image of my website where I have like red eyes and a long goatee or something, like just like a reskinning of my actual website. But if you go to MatthewEvil.com, it does actually forward you to the correct website. But I'll get into domain name stuff and web stuff a little bit later. I wanted to start with financing stuff, because this is another thing that if you don't do it right from the get-go, it can bite you in the ass later. It's one of those things that like it's much harder to unfuck later if you fucked it up the first time. By the way, I hope nobody here is offended by some choice language. I tend to throw that in from time to time. If you are, I can tone it down, but let me know, please. Step one, more important than anything else here, get separate bank accounts for your business. Get a separate, it's not hard find a local credit union, something like that. They're usually only too happy to set up a business account for you. And it's as simple as just opening a checking account, opening a savings account, putting $5 in there, done. But if you can, and you have the credit, get yourself a business credit card as well. It's having a little bit of emergency or expandable cash when you don't actually have the bread right now is handy. You have to have good financial, discipline, of course, as with any credit card, but having a separate account for all of your business transactions, all of them, will help you immeasurably anytime you have to deal with taxes, anytime you have to deal with like, well, how much money am I actually making on these products, that kind of thing. If you try and just like, oh, I'll just keep good accounting with my personal checking account to make sure I flag things that are business. No, because you're going to get lazy at some point, and you're going to miss things at some point. The way that I do it is like when I'm at a convention like this, because I'm here as a business, because I'm here. This is what I do for a living, basically. The meals that I eat, I put on the business card. The flights down here, I put on the business card. Some of the things that I buy here, I might put on the business card. But usually, if I'm buying something at dealer's den, I put that on the personal card because that's not a business expense. That's more like I'm buying something on vacation. Unless I'm buying it specifically, like as a costume piece I'm going to use on stage or something like that. But I'm not going to dive down the rabbit hole of what you can deduct on your taxes as a business because that is not my area of expertise, and it's also a very deep hole. Like that could be its own entire session, really. Yeah.
Just a suggestion, if you do that, which is a really great idea, the people who make QuickBooks make a version called Self-Employed, which is $10 a month. You can buy it month to month. And if you connect it to the business account that you buy, it will automatically sort everything for you, and at the end of the year, it will spit out something. You can either buy TurboTax, and it reads it right in, or you can give it to your accountant. Everything is sorted, and it will nag you until you do it.
Yeah. I actually just use Mint, but I have a separate.
Ties into it,
yeah, I have a separate account for my business bank account so that I can see like the pie chart and all that kind of stuff of like my spending trends, So yeah, like using proper accounting software will also help. Mint is free, fortunately. So if you're not even ready to invest, $10 a month yet, start at least with that. Right. Is everybody here already familiar with Mint? No? Some people? Okay. Oh, wonderfully visible color y'all got me, thanks. It's the light orange on white if you have trouble reading this here. So, for tracking and keeping a handle on your business finances, Mint.com is a good place to start for that. And what you need to set up a business bank account will depend on whatever bank you're approaching. Some of them require that you have like a local business license. Some are only too happy to just open another account for you. You just got to talk to wherever your checking account is right now, or start shopping for a new bank. See if they have perks, for small businesses. Another question that I get asked a lot is, what kind of business am I? You've heard of things like LLCs, corporations, S-corps, that kind of stuff. All of those are legal constructs that exist to put a wall between you and your business, your personal assets and your business assets. So what it comes down to is, if you are not exposing yourself to a significant amount of risk with your art, and I'll get to that in a second, but if you're not exposing yourself to a significant amount of risk, don't bother with any of that. You're a sole proprietor. That's what most of us as artists are going to be, is a sole proprietor. Now, if your art happens to be food, let's say. And I know a few in this fandom who they are chefs as their art. You know, I know at least one cookie dragon makes amazing pastries. But if you have employees, not just like I'm commissioning people, though that's contract labor. If you actually have employees, then you should deal with the paperwork and the filing bullshit and all that. If you run the risk of like poisoning people or scalding people or something like that because your art is, you know, food products, then that's a level of risk that you should probably incorporate. You should go through the paperwork. I can't help you with that, especially not in, you know, a single panel time. What you are going to be is a sole proprietor, which at the end of the day, by end of the day I mean end of tax season, it just means you're filling out a little extra paperwork on your taxes, declaring self-employment income, basically. But what it also means is, if you do fuck up colossally, somebody who wants to sue your business can come after your house, your car, your cat, whatever. That's why I say, like, unless you're exposing yourself to a significant amount of risk, because like, you know, if I get accused of plagiarism, like, it's highly unlikely that that's ever going to come to even to a court case or something. But they could go after, you know, my motorcycle for damages, you know, like that my shitty wages could be garnished, you know, that kind of thing. If you're a corporation, you could basically just say, all right, well, you've sued me out of existence, close the business, my house is okay.
Well, I'm not trying to spam here, but there are a lot of attorneys you can find online on places like avo.com, look at your local bar association, you know, look for a friendly lawyer on Twitter, who will give you a free consultation and kind of go through the steps that he just said and talk to you for a half an hour and say, you know what, you're probably okay, or else, you know what, here's what you're not looking at. You really need to think about a corporate entity.
Yeah.
You need to think about insurance, all kinds of fun stuff. So you don't necessarily have to pay out the nose to start for that. But if there's even a question, or even if you could just find one of us who's bored and doesn't mind chatting for half an hour, you don't necessarily have to come up with cash up front to get simple answers to the questions he's asking.
Absolutely. And it's going to be way more qualified advice than I can give you.
And like, when I opened my business to sell body products, I didn't think about the fact that like I could put something on someone's skin and they could have a horrible reaction and then die. But when I called the permit office, they were like, hey, you might want to set up an LLC. And I was like...
Which stands for a limited liability corporation, by the way.
And seriously, like, one guy on the phone giving me one piece of advice saved me a ton of time and effort.
And it wasn't much paperwork.
Yeah, it was.
Yeah.
It was like 16 questions on the state website. So it was
Corporations and S corps tend to be a stack of paperwork, but that's the point where you're much more successful than I've ever been. You know. So yeah, that's. I should add that to my notes here. I'll remember that later. But like actually getting a free consultation from an attorney is an excellent idea. I mean, just running a furry con, there's a lot of shit that most furry cons don't think about when they're starting out. And the two that I've learned to ask the staff anytime I'm at a furry con is, what are you using for radios? It's one of those things you don't think about, but that exposes a con to a ton of risk if they're using like GMRS or ham radio frequencies for what is a commercial entity. That's a big no-no, and all it takes is one griefer who knows this to contact the FCC. Another thing is, are you paying BMI and ASCAP fees, which are performing rights organizations? This is your wheelhouse, but it's performing rights organizations that collect money for songwriters like me. There's a lot of cons that didn't realize that you had to pay a license if you're going to have dances or be playing music or something like that. The anime cons and whatnot shell out like thousands of dollars because they're putting full-on movies and stuff up on screens. And I've been to cons, I've been to furry cons that they do movies, and they're like, wow, how did you get the licensing for that? The what? Another thing, one griefer who knows that you're not paying those fees can make one phone call and shut a con down. So assessing your risk is a great thing to do before you get into business. Any other questions there? Cool. Setting up.
Before you leave that topic.
Yeah, please.
Are you going to talk about insurance?
I usually don't, because
Business insurance is super cheap.
it really is.
It's ridiculous cheap. So if you're doing anything like that, think about insurance. The insurance agent who sells your renter's insurance, your car insurance, can probably help you. If not, they can give you a referral.
Usually it can be as simple as, I shouldn't say usually, because in my case, it can be as simple as just adding a rider onto your renter's or homeowner's policy that covers, my sound equipment or something when it's outside the house. Bye. All right. Not
Never mind.
Yeah, right. And depending on how good your renter's insurance or your homeowner's insurance is already, you may not need extra insurance. Chances are you will if you're bringing equipment and stuff places. But talk to your insurance agent, like you said. And that's something I should add to this outline too. That's a very good idea. One thing that I get asked a lot is like, how do I set a price for what I'm making? And unfortunately, I really can't give you an answer on that one. There's a balance between what the market will bear, what people will actually pay for something, and what it costs to make. And you cannot undervalue yourself. You cannot lose money making what you're doing. You cannot do. I'll get you as soon as I'm done with this sentence here. As soon as it finishes forming, you cannot work for a starvation wage and expect to still be making art and be happy making your art. It has to actually be worth your time to do it, especially if you're treating it like a business. You have a question?
I have a couple things to say. One thing is, I did it with some of the stuff I've made, is do a standard piece if you're doing whatever, a drawing or whatever, time it, and then afterwards say, I want to make 10, 11 bucks an hour and adjust your price according to that. And I had gone to art school and all that. One of my teachers in art school had told me, don't undervalue your art. So he told me, think of a price, double it, add $2.
Yeah. It's like what I do with speed limits when I'm on the motorcycle. Sorry, I shouldn't be saying this in front of any kind of an attorney. Let's see here. Now, that's a good anecdote, but I wouldn't actually use that as a formula for, he or she is more getting at the fact that we as artists tend to undervalue ourselves and our art. Now, in my situation, it's fairly easy because people will pay $10 to $15 for an album. They'll pay 99 cents for a song if they're buying it online. There are market standard prices that are already set for what it is that I make. So if you can find things that are the same level of quality, the same level of construction, I guess, basically similar items, shop around, look at what your competitors are charging. There will always be somebody charging less. There will always be somebody willing to give their music away for free. You cannot compete with that. You should not compete with that. As a matter of fact, Apple has made an entire business out of charging more than people think that they should be charging for their goods. And people fucking camp out to buy them. Okay? Everybody knows Apple's shit is overpriced. And people line up on the sidewalks with tents the day before a new product goes on sale. So, as long as you are focusing on the quality of your art, you can charge what it is actually worth. Somebody will always be there to undercut you that it is not worth your time to race to the bottom with prices, okay? This is how Walmart happens. Okay? This is how a blender that was made in 1979 is still functioning, and a blender you buy, some $10 Chinese-made piece of shit at Walmart will die after one margarita. Okay? Do not race to the bottom. Another thing, and this is in intellectual property territory. So for you drawers, a little harder for this to happen with like fursuits, but for 3D animations and stuff like that as well, piracy will happen. So the fuck what? Ignore it. Okay? There's very little, if anything, you can do to stop somebody from stealing your art if they want it. Okay? What usually happens is you put up a bunch of paywalls, a bunch of content management, I forget the term for it. Crap, it's like a 3-letter acronym that has been my entire business and it's failing me right now. Copy protection, basically. DRM. There we go. Yes, it's failing you too. Like you can stack a ton of DRM, copy protection, paywalls, all that kind of stuff on top. All you're doing is making it a pain in the ass for your legitimate customers to actually get their product. Okay. Piracy will happen, and those people are not your customers, but after they've shared it or after they've pirated it, they might become your customer. They might actually start paying for stuff if they really like what it is you do. Okay? Focus on the people who are supporting you. Focus on the people who are paying you money for these goods and make them happy. It's not worth your time to deal with the pirates. And I have to focus on time because time is the one thing that is your most precious resource as an artist. Money comes and goes. You can always get more money. You can find money. You can trip over money on the sidewalk. You can't find another 6 hours in a day. Okay? You cannot make more time. You cannot save time for later. You can save money for later. You can put money somewhere and it will come back as more money. You can't fucking do that with time, okay? So anything that saves you time is the absolute most important thing as an artist, especially when you're starting out. Because you're going to be working like 10-hour days if you really want to be a success.
Okay. I'm going to push back just a little bit on what you said.
Okay.
As far as DRM and so forth, complete agreement. Never make it hard for people to give you money. But pirates who post your stuff on 4chan, absolutely right. Don't worry about it. Don't even think about it. If somebody takes your stuff and starts making money with it.
Oh, yeah, sorry. Yeah, that's
when you call one of us.
Yeah.
Because they don't get to do that.
Oh, God. Never buy from any fucking online t-shirt store. Ever. Yeah, those of us in this fucking fandom who should know this by now, like how many friends do we have who have had their original artwork it shows up on Teespring, but it's not theirs. Like it's somebody else's selling shirts with their art on it. Target has actually done that. Target had
Forever 21
Forever 21 as well. Yeah, like it's one of those things where you should call a lawyer at that point. Sorry. When I refer to piracy and ignoring the pirates, I just meant people downloading your stuff, even people posting it on, posting MP3s online or whatever. Like, yeah, it's not worth chasing all those people down. Any other questions thus far? Cool. Your website. How many of you actually have a website already? What do you mean?
I mean, like, I have a personal website.
You have a what?
I have a personal website that I work on.
Oh, but not your business website. Okay, but you at least know how to make a website happen. Yeah.
Sort of what I'm doing.
Cool. All right. So, your website is your storefront. It is the property you own. Your Fur Affinity page is not your website. It is not where you take commissions. It should not be where you take commissions. Excuse me. Let me tell you a little story about MySpace. Some of us are old enough to remember MySpace. MySpace was the #1 site. It predated Facebook. Facebook was nothing. Has anybody actually like not heard of MySpace? Okay, so you all know what MySpace was. Musicians, in particular, used MySpace as their only destination. People were handing out CDs that didn't have a website on it. It had their MySpace page printed on it, because that was where they were setting all of their traffic. That was where how they were interacting with their fans. That was their storefront. One day, and it was literally just one day, gone. MySpace just fucking disappeared. All those business cards, all those posters, those t-shirts, those actual CDs now point all of their fans. Those CDs are plastic. They last thousands of years, folks. If somebody finds this CD and says, oh my God, I've never heard of this band, they're great, where can I find them? MySpace, okay? All of that publicity, all that promotion, useless, because they were sending people to somebody else's house, to somebody else's fucking store, okay? Fur Affinity is where a lot of the community goes. It is not your website. Even if all you do is set up a domain name that points to your Fur Affinity page, or to your Weasel page, or whatever, or your Facebook page, you know, like a lot of venues, a lot of nightclubs and stuff, which is, you know, what I'm looking for, like places to play. A lot of nightclubs, they don't have a website, they have a fucking Facebook page, and I want to slap them around, but like, I can't. Getting at least the domain name and using that on all of your publicity is 10 steps in the right direction. So, do you know how to get a domain name? Those of you who don't already have a website. Cool. So, hopefully you can read Orange. Probably the easiest way to get a domain name right now is domains.google. Yes, they are their own top-level domain, because I guess they just own the internet. But domains.google has made one of the surprisingly easiest interfaces and management systems that I've ever seen for getting whatever.com registered. And you know, you can also get .pizza, .ninja, .German Shepherds, whatever, you know, whatever top-level domains exist. Google makes it pretty easy. I use both them and namesecure.com. That's another one. It makes magical tones happen when I say the word, but I won't say it again. Some of you, I'm sure, have heard of GoDaddy. Don't use them, because they're fuckers. I'm not going to go too far into detail on that one, but please don't use GoDaddy. Look it up if you have to, if you're wondering why I'm so on about that, but I don't have the time to explain why they're bastards. If you're getting an actual website, like if you know how to do it, or if you have a friend who's actually going to like build an actual like hosted website for you, a lot of times the hosting company will also be a domain name registrar as well, and a lot of times they'll include that in whatever package that they're selling you for the hosting. I use Bluehost to host my websites. Actually, I should write that one down too. They're cheap, they're easy, they're pretty damn reliable. There we go. Bluehost.com. And there's a ton of website hosting platforms out there. I'm just giving you one. Okay, like do your own shopping around, but if you absolutely don't know where to start, there's a couple for you. The thing is, if you have the domain name, if you have yourbusiness.com or yourbusiness.net or whatever, you don't actually need to figure out how to host your own or build your own website. There's a lot of places, like Wix, I know is pretty popular right now. I hate it, but it'll do. You know, like if you don't know what you're doing when building a website, it's better than nothing. WordPress.com is one of my personal favorites, because you can set up a WordPress site for free. They'll host it for free. They're not throwing ads on your page or anything like they used to do back in the late 90s with free website hosting stuff. And if you have a domain name already, they'll let you point it there. You can host the website there for free if you want like the ability to point your domain name there. I think it's like $12 a year or something like that. It's ridiculously cheap. And WordPress is a pretty powerful. Why am I not writing this down? WordPress is a pretty darn powerful system. And why did I put a slash in it? It's just going to confuse me. So, there's two flavors of WordPress as well. If you're not really sure what you're doing and you just want to build a website quickly with templates, they have a bunch of themes that you can pick from. They're highly customizable, stuff like that. There's an entire theme marketplace of themes made by professional designers for anything from like regular web comics to music to coffee shops. Like, it's actually a really good system, and it's built on a blogging platform. Like, the core engine of it is a blogging platform. Now, that's WordPress.com. The reason I put WordPress.org on there is if you just want the software that's running WordPress.com, that's free. It's always been free. So if you already have your own host, which I do, I host, I think, like 8 entire WordPress-based sites on Bluehost, on like two shared Bluehost accounts. It's it lets you expand. Like, if you go with WordPress, it lets you expand from the basic, okay, this is my first website, I'm just going to throw this up here, to I'm a real business now, and I have a friend who is going to set up a website for me. This will let me take my existing website elsewhere and set it up and build on it from there, that kind of thing. So, and again, just a couple of options. I'm sure there's more. Any questions at this point? Okay. The reason I'm spending so much time on this, by the way, is you really should have your own website. Okay? Because at the end of the day, like I said, MySpace might crumble. Furfinity will go down again. It's just, it's a fact of life. And when that happens, you need to be able to interact with your customers, your fans, okay? And the place that you want them to get familiar with is your website. You want that to be the first thing, the first place they go to look at your stuff, okay? Like, I'm not saying don't host things on other sites either. Like, I'm a musician. You bet your ass I post stuff on SoundCloud, Mixcloud, YouTube. I don't post stuff on Furfinity because posting music to Furfinity is still a fucking Flash embed. Okay? I don't know if they've even HTML5'd that yet, but I also will take those, YouTube embeds, SoundCloud embeds, whatever, and put them on my own website. So if people are just finding out about me, they'll go to MatthewEbel.com or avianinvasion.com, depending on what band, what act, and they'll be able to see all that stuff on my website. It's my property, it's my storefront. It looks exactly how I want it, and it's not carrying somebody else's ads. You know what I mean? I could go into more about like where are you hosting your portfolio, but I'm not sure how much this matters for visual media, because visual media is, as far as bandwidth is concerned, is very cheap. So like you can host that on your own on a slow server. It doesn't matter. Like you can host that on your own site until the cows come home. And I can't think of any sites where like the images get voted and upvoted and get traffic and stuff like that. There's no quintessential thing like YouTube. where I want my video to become known, I want it to become popular. Well, YouTube is the place for that right now. I would encourage you, if there is a site where the traffic is already being driven, which in my case would be SoundCloud, Spotify, stuff like that, to get your stuff there, if you can. Because it's hard to drive traffic to a site nobody's heard of before. You do want your own storefront. You do want to make sure that that is known as the hub for all things Matthew Ebel. Once somebody is a Matthew Ebel fan, they know where to go. But people who've never heard of me before, they're going to make their inroads from places where they're already hanging out. So this is why I'm still on Verfinity. This is why I post things to YouTube and SoundCloud and whatnot, because there's always that recommendation engine working in the background. You know, stuff on Spotify and Pandora, like there's always, you know, the robots making recommendations for me. There's friends making playlists with my stuff in it, that kind of thing. So putting stuff out there as a free sample on sites that already have the traffic is basically the next step. Once you have a place to send them, once you have a place where somebody looks at your art, sees that video, hears that song, whatever, and says, ooh, I want to find out more about this person. Once they have a place to go, then start posting those samples anywhere that is relevant. I already said don't give your shit away for free, you know, like don't undervalue yourself, but you have to give away some stuff for free. You can't give the whole works away for free, but there has to be something that you hand out to people as a free sample. Kind of hard to do with fursuits, but you know, like I don't know, maybe I guess for the fursuiting and for the cosplay, like for the physical goods like that, it's not so much you're giving away the actual product for free, but you know, maybe doing something like here at a convention or something like that, you know, letting people try stuff on, see how they like it, you know, take it for a test ride. With visual art, though, you can hand out free samples and it really doesn't cost you any materials that way. So, you know, you have to get your name out there somehow. And that's the tricky part. That's called marketing, and it's a dirty word. It is a filthy fucking business, marketing. And I am not fantastic at it. I have learned a lot of things the hard way. How much time do I have in this panel, by the way? When is my...
4.
Half an hour. Okay, so I got half an hour, right. I should ask at this point, because I'm going to have to diverge from my outline, because it's like a 3-hour outline. I'm going to have to compress and jump around a bit. Is there anything that you guys are struggling with as far as, you know, starting a business for your art? Is there anything that you came in here like, I really hope he covers this? This is a two-way street, folks. Like,
Well, I hopped in kind of late, but so I'm a music producer, but
I'm so sorry.
dude, why is that?
This is what I do for a living.
Oh, competition, I see. Anyway, so
Ooh, that reminds me, I should cover that as well. Sorry.
I was gonna say my main platform has turned out to be YouTube, because like with SoundCloud, I've had copyright issues, and I was thinking, like, what are your ideas for growth? Because I've seen, like, for example, a year back, I did a collaboration with Cothrix, if you've heard of it. Although he's a pro YouTuber, and he's up at 25,000. Meanwhile, I'm still barely making 1,000. Like, do you have any recommendations for growing yourself on YouTube?
Regular content. And this is also, by the way, why I recommended a blog-based website platform. Serialized content is very important. It doesn't even matter. Okay, let me walk that one back already here. The quality does matter. What you're creating does matter. But as important as the quality, is the regularity with which you are releasing something. Okay? It doesn't have to be a fursuit every single week, but a progress blog, like as you're constructing a fursuit, let's say, something that takes a lot longer to make than like a song or an album or something like that, or even if you're doing a song or an album, posting an in-progress video or blog or photo spread or something like that, getting something out to those channels at least once a week.
Does part of that have to do with the YouTube algorithm, from what I've heard?
If you're looking to monetize, then we can talk about the YouTube algorithm stuff, but we really shouldn't. Because the reason so many YouTubers are consistently like leaving YouTube forever, lol, just kidding, be right back in 5 minutes. They have no other business model. They have no other fucking income model. They think like, oh, I can just become huge on YouTube and become a millionaire like PewDiePie. Okay. At the end of the day, your customers, your fans, your customers are human beings who need to pay for something for you to stay in business. So the reason I say the regularity of your content has nothing to do with an algorithm. It has everything to do with staying fresh in people's minds. So, sending out an email to your mailing list twice a month, posting a blog post once a week, posting something to YouTube once every week or two. The YouTubers who are doing it for the money and for their only source of income have to do something like daily in order to survive. That's a lot of fucking time. And like I said earlier, you can never make more time. Time is your most precious resource. So unless you're making a shit ton of money posting something every day on YouTube, there's probably better ROI, which is return on investment, ROI. There's probably a better return on investment for the time that you're spending. You could be making something far more profitable with the time you'd be spending making something every day on YouTube. Does that make sense?
Tying together growth and monetization, what are your thoughts on Patreon?
That is usually an entire hour-long fucking session. So actually, should I just like jump to Patreon at this point?
Sure.
Okay. Although I did want to comment on something you said. You said, aha, competition. Do not think of other artists as your competition. Nobody listens to just one musician. Okay? Now granted, for big ticket items like fursuits, people might only be able to afford one of them, but I know people with closets full of fursuits. They tend to like a particular maker because that maker already has their pattern, their size, has their, like if they've got like 8 fursuits from this person, then they have a relationship at that point. But other artists are by no means your competition. As a matter of fact, you will find, as far as growth goes, like exactly what you just said earlier, collaborating, doing some kind of audience share with another artist who is either in your area of art, musicians working with other musicians. Like look at any fucking EDM track and, name of song featuring and then 40 people, remixed by another 3 people, like that kind of collaboration works well. But also, hold on to that, because when I get a thought right now, it's more likely to leak out my ear before I'm finished with it. Shit, and it's gone. No. But you can also collaborate with people who are not in your artistic field. Mixed media stuff is always fantastic. It's the reason music videos exist at all. Okay, you have visual artists, cinematographers working with musicians. Art gallery installations will have music playing in some cases because the person who made this sculpture wants you to hear that Evanescence song while you're looking at it or whatever. That. You got something?
To add to that, I watched a lot of YouTube But I sometimes watch for YouTubers, but I also watch a lot of people that like draw their life stories, and they'll collaborate with other people that do it. And that's why I found the other people. And like, they'll put them in the videos. I'm like, oh, this person looks cool. I like their art style, and I go watch their videos.
Nice. Yeah. So Patreon. It's sort of like the 900-pound gorilla in the room that everybody thinks is the thing that will make them, successful at this point. The problem with Patreon, as they discovered when they tried to eliminate the microtransaction feasibility, when they tried to redo their fee schedule recently, it's not a great place for it to be like your only storefront. I don't want to mislead you and say I invented Patreon, but I was doing Patreon since 2008. So 5 years before Patreon existed, I had a paid fan club subscription system thing where I was delivering 2 songs a month, 1 live recording a month, an annual goodie bag, an annual invite to my beer bash. Excuse me, I'm burping a lot here. That sort of thing. The impetus for it was the concept that it's a premium fan club, not the storefront for everybody. Are you familiar at all, or have you even heard of what's called the sales funnel? Okay, so another thing I had to learn from my marketing and sales friends here. The sales funnel is one of the, I'm going to look this up so I can crouch and do this. It's one of the most basic concepts in running a business and selling a product. You have a funnel, which, if you're not familiar with a funnel, I can't fucking help you, okay? You just have to visualize this one on your own. But down here, you have your premium luxury product, whatever, your fancy sports car, or your, in my case, it would be like a Patreon membership. Up here, you have the thing with the least barrier to entry. Okay, the top of the funnel is getting somebody to sign up for your email list, getting somebody to subscribe to your YouTube channel, whatever. It is very easy. It requires very little commitment on the part of the customer doing it. So you're going to have the most people up here up on top. That's why it's a funnel. Okay, the most people are going to join your email list. Let's say 1,000 people join your email list. Of those 1,000 people, only 100 of them will buy a track off of iTunes or something. Only one of those 1,000 people will actually buy a CD from you. Okay, and only I guess I should have used better math, but it's like 0.1% or something are likely to actually convert to a subscription where they're actually paying you on a regular basis because they're so in love with everything that you're making that they are willing to pay monthly for it. Okay, so you can kind of see where I'm going with this. You're not going to make a living through Patreon unless you already have like a few thousand people, like 3,000 to 5,000 people like on your mailing list. You know what I mean? Like it's a big thing to ask somebody to open their wallet on a regular basis for whatever I choose to make this month. Does that make sense? That being said, if you treat it like it is the luxury item at the bottom of that funnel, then it can be very rewarding for both you and the customers that choose to go that route. So what you're creating is not just like, I'm going to make a song for you and you're going to pay me for it. You are establishing a top tier relationship with these people. These are the VIPs. These are the people that are sitting on the couches backstage with the artist, not the ones, not even the ones in the front row, not even the ones in the boxes. Okay. If you treat Patreon like that, you stand a chance of being successful at it. Because it basically means you can charge a premium at that point, you know. You're creating more handcrafted goods. You're giving people behind the scenes looks at things. That's how you should approach Patreon. As a matter of fact, the very name is derived from the term patron, a patron of the arts. This is not your average customer. This is a patron of the arts that you're trying to court with this. So, let me actually skip to my whole Patreon thing here. There's 2 ways to do Patreon, which is fantastic. You can either do a monthly fee or you can do a per thing fee. I choose to do the per thing because it takes a little less pressure. If I can't produce something in a given month, my people aren't charged anything. Fantastic. It also makes it a little easier on their minds, I guess, as well. You know, a little less of a commitment. Like, oh well, if he's producing 3 things every single month, and he only produces 1 thing in this month because he had the flu, you know, like we're not going to still be paying the same amount of money to him. The best thing that you can do before getting involved with Patreon is wait a year. Okay? Wait a full year. Think of a project you would like to work on that would take you a year to complete. It could be, you know, a fursuit, a set of fursuits. It could be an art book. It could be a novel. It could be a music album. It could be anything, but something that you think like your time would be well spent spending an entire year working on. Create a menu of all of the things that you would think that you would release on Patreon every single month. Now this is where I burn myself out big time, okay? Because I've been doing this since 2008. But anything that you would think like, I'm going to do this for my Patreon people, art, you know, actual art releases, how-to videos, members-only hangouts or webcasts or whatever, sketch versions and scrap versions of things that you don't show to the regular public, personalized work for like your super high-tier people. You know, like custom-written songs or something like that. Physical goods, shirts, keychains, you know, whatever, hats, that kind of stuff. Create a menu of all this stuff. Figure out what it will realistically cost in both time and money for each of those things. For every single one of those things. These are all things that you have to create or do on top of the actual product, by the way. So like if you're doing, let's say, videos, well, okay, how long does it take me to make a video? If it only takes me 1 day to make a video, well, that's a full day of work. What's my time worth? Okay, so I have to be making basically at least that much for every one of those videos that I'm making. And if it's only going to my Patreon people, then I have to be making that much money from just my Patreon people for it to really be worth it. You get where I'm going with this? You can overpromise a lot. It's very easy to overpromise with Patreon. So, like I said, think of a project you want to work on for a full year. After you've come up with all of those things you think you might want to release on Patreon on a monthly basis, and it has to be a monthly basis. You have to be able to regularly produce that content on a monthly basis. Do it for nobody. Do it for nobody, okay? In the case of like visual artists, if you're drawing things, if you're doing, you know, digital work or sketch or watercolors, whatever, if you think I'm going to do one really detailed finished work every single month, and I'm also going to blog or, you know, make sketches or something like that, or make like side things or add people's characters into this thing that I'm already working on. Great, that's something you can do on Patreon. Plan out a project that's going to be like a storybook, or like I said, like an art book, like a coffee table book or something that you'll release after a year. That'll have 12 really detailed finished pieces in it, and a whole bunch of background information, and a whole bunch of all the little things that you thought that you would be doing on a monthly basis through Patreon. Over the course of those 12 months, as you're working on that project, you'll find out just how much you've overpromised. And you can back it down to what's reasonable before you're disappointing people that are paying money for it. I have some very fucking patient fans who have been with me since 2008, and I have had to back so much off of my initial promises. Initially, I was doing 2 new songs every single month and a live recording. And this was, and goodies and postcards and stuff like that, some physical goods. Now, just those 3 things right there, only going to my members, by the way, not being released to the public. Just those 3 things mean I have to write, produce, record, and release a song that's worth actually paying for. That's the important part. Every 2 weeks without fail. And do it every 2 weeks without fail. At the same time, I'm booking a show, finding a way to book concerts and record those concerts and engineer those concerts after the fact and release those every single month without fail. I don't know about you, but I get the flu once in a while. It's very fucking hard to make that happen if you've gotten sick, if you want to go on vacation, if shit comes up. So, conceiving beforehand, coming back to what you should actually do if you want to sign up for Patreon. Conceive of beforehand what you think you'll actually want to release on Patreon, and do it for 6 months minimum, but make it a year. As you're working on this big project that is going to be like your example at the end of the year, then you can start a Kickstarter for it. Say hey, I'd like to release this album and actually send it to vinyl or whatever, but you actually have a kick-ass finished product that's already ready to go at the end of that year, and you can then use all those extra goodies you'd be sending to Patreon as perks for the Kickstarter backers, and get a one-time big push, one-time influx of cash because it's a Kickstarter project, and also a big media push. A coordinated media push, sending it out to your social media fans and friends and your network to get things started. And once that's all blown over, he's like, I have released this album with all these goodies, and it's on vinyl, and there's shirts and all this cool stuff. And oh, by the way, I'm going to be doing this monthly. If you want more of this on a regular basis, I'm starting up a Patreon, and this is exactly what you have an example now of exactly what you'll be able to give to those people if they sign up at that point. People don't like doing long-term strategy stuff like this, but this is quite possibly the surest recipe for success with Patreon if you want to go that route. Now, that being said, I make about 80% of my income through Patreon because I have fans that pay what I consider way too much for what they're actually getting, but they don't consider that, okay? Because they are VIPs, and I treat them like VIPs, okay? And they now know what to expect from me every single month, and at conventions like this. And thank God the Bluetooth dubstep went away.
It was worse at MFF last year.
Oh, Jesus. Yeah, it was actually. So, any questions at all about Patreon? Anything else? No. Where am I as far as time goes? I got 10 more minutes. Time savers. You had actually asked about growing your platform, growing your social media presence as well. There's a few things that you can do to stay present on social media platforms without spending all of your fucking time just sitting there doing shit on social media platforms. I've stressed it once or twice already, but WordPress as a basis for your website is good because it creates an RSS feed. Does anybody not know what an RSS feed is? Okay, it literally stands for really simple syndication. Early on in the web, it was used as like just a news feed, a way for information to get out there without all of the web stuff, without all of the graphics and the load times and stuff like that. It's just the content boiled down to its most simple form.
Given the circumstances.
Sorry, what? Or did that come from outside? Wow, that came like right to my ear too. Where was I? RSS, thank you. RSS is just the raw content produced by, in most cases, a blog. Your SoundCloud account will also create an RSS feed, and some other things can create RSS feeds. Podcasts are all based on RSS feeds. The reason that I like to push WordPress as a website base is because it is a blog platform at its core, and it makes an RSS feed for anything that you publish through it. Now that can be a podcast, that can be a webcomic, that can be just a blog. You can do videos that way as a video podcast. People don't usually like go to an RSS reader to bring things in, to look at things. They go to YouTube, they go to other sites, whatever. But the important thing is there's so much automation that can happen if you release things through something that uses an RSS feed. I think like Blogger also creates RSS feeds for you and stuff like that. Let me give you an example here. There's a couple of sites that I absolutely live by, and this has helped me. An awful lot with social media stuff. IFTTT.com. So IFTTT literally stands for if this then that.com. Another one is Zapier. They both effectively do the same thing. IFTTT is a little bit more well known, but Zapier does a few things that IFTTT does not. All they do is take something and do something else with it. I can't really be more specific than that because that's literally just all that these two sites do. So for an example, if Apple's stock price drops below a certain amount, like I could set this up right now in front of you if I had a computer here. I can go to ifthisthenThat.com and tell it if Apple stock price drops below this number, tell the Philips Hue light bulb in my kitchen to turn red. Like, sure, why not? You can make a shit ton of connections through these two sites to do anything you want. A more practical example, what I do on a regular basis, in fact. If I post something to Instagram with the hashtag concert, I also wanted to tweet that from my Twitter account. I also wanted to cross-post it to Flickr because I have some people that are following me on Flickr as well, and it'll just take the photo and also post it to Flickr with that hashtag concert. I will also have it cross-post that to my Facebook page and put it into the concert photos album that I already have in there. All of this is stuff that it'd take me like an extra 5 minutes to do, or I could just have the robot do it in the background and save myself 5 minutes because those are 5 minutes I'm never getting back. You can always make more money, you can never make more time. Let's see, there's a few other things that I have IFTTT and Zapier doing, but that's really the big one. It allows me to stay fresh on several different channels all at the same time. WordPress plugins as well is another thing, and I'm sure that there's integrations with other website platforms, but WordPress in particular has a shit ton of plugins. So anytime I actually post something to my website, I can have it automatically email my mailing list with it. So I'm sending an email and posting a blog post at the same time. More time saved. I can have it cross-post it to various other platforms like Facebook. Like that. Like basically, it allows me to stay to produce regular content on every platform that I've got my fingers in by doing just one task on my own website. So it's one part time saver, one part staying fresh in people's minds on a regular basis. Because the more frequently you stay in people's minds, the more frequently your name is in front of them, the more likely they are to either stay your fan and your customer or be likely to choose you later on. You know, like, oh, I've heard this name everywhere. I see this name all the time. Let me check them out for business. You know, like I need a commission done. I see this person everywhere. That works. That familiarity is actually what will bring in new business. The last couple of sites that I can recommend for you, especially if you're going to a con and like hosting panels or something like that, or throwing an event or something like that. This is strictly for social media stuff. There's Hootsuite. Man, it's hard to write at this angle. And Buffer. Both of these effectively do the same thing. Their methodology is slightly different, but Hootsuite and Buffer allow you to queue up social media posts on various platforms. So I'm just about done in here, by the way. Hootsuite and Buffer allow you to queue up things on social media platforms. So like when I finish a concert, I have a big long roll of photos from whoever was taking photos. I could just dump them all at once, but if I have like 40 photos, I could post, 3 or 4 of those a day for like 10 days, maybe a couple of weeks. Like, that's regular content that I could just be having the robot post for me. And especially if I have it automatically post to Instagram, which you can, then it's going to all my other platforms on a regular basis. And all I have to do is spend 5-10 minutes queuing them up to post later in one of these two sites. So again, major time saver that will let you get back to the thing you actually want to and need to be doing, which is making the fucking art in the first place. I think I'm out of time at this point. Does anyone have any questions? Anything I didn't cover that you wanted me to cover? You all look confused, hungover, glassy-eyed, like I've just steamrolled over you with all this shit. All right. Well, thank you very much for sticking around. If you have any other questions, I'll be around the con, or you can find me at MatthewEbel.com or Matthew Ebel pretty much anywhere. Go forth. Clap, don't encourage him. I said, don't clap, just encourage him.
Are you doing one of these kind of panels?
I hope so. I don't know. I haven't really talked to MFF's scheduling. Yeah.
Silver Gattoman, he bought me a coffee. Silver Gattoman, here is the song for thee. He likes to video all the panels at the cons. You should go and watch them whether they are short or long. Silver Gattoman, you video that's not a jibe. All of you go to his YouTube channel and like and subscribe.